Warning, I swear a lot.
So today, I wanted to talk about challenge in games, specifically playing hard games, playing games on harder difficulties, why I enjoy it, and why I think you should give it a try. There is a plane flying overhead right now, and I've been waiting here for 5 minutes to record, so y'all are just gonna have to ignore it. I'm so sorry. If I could shoot out of the sky, I would. As a disclaimer, I just want to point out that playing hard games and playing games on harder difficulties does not make you any more of a gamer. I hate that fucking term, but there's no other term to describe people who play video games, so I'm just gonna have to cringe inside every time I say it. Playing harder games doesn't make you a more worthy gamer or a higher ranked gamer. It doesn't do anything along those lines, and playing a more casual or relaxed experience doesn't make you any less of a gamer. I'm not here to debate that, although I think I've just made my stance perfectly clear. Just because I play a lot of hard games doesn't make me a better gamer than anyone else, and that applies to everyone. But I do love a challenge. I do love playing hard games very much, and I will pick harder difficulty options on games that I play which aren't already hard games, because I do enjoy that extra challenge. And I thought about this for a while. I tried to figure out the best way I could explain it, because it's not easily quantifiable other than I just really like a challenge. But I think I found a way to maybe get my point across. And I'm going to use 2 games as an example. Now, you might be expecting Dark Souls, but no, that doesn't really summarize what I mean. Also, it's really obvious and everyone will be expecting it, so I was like, nope, not doing Dark Souls, it's got to be something else. First of all, Middle-earth: Shadow of War, and second of all, Fallout 4. 2 games that are somewhat similar, but quite vastly different experiences, both in tone and gameplay. But they both summarize my thoughts on this very well. We can split into 2 things, gameplay and then narrative, and we'll be looking at how Middle-earth: Shadow of War and Fallout 4 are affected in these ways. Those games also rhyme, so that's fun. So we'll start with gameplay, and we'll start with Shadow of War. Now, Shadow of War, much like Shadow of Mordor before it, that also rhymes, has a nemesis system where the orc captains within the game do their own thing, level up, become stronger, gain more traits, come after you directly, and the ones you recruit can betray you or come to your assistance in times of need. There's a whole system going on. I love the gameplay of it. I think it's fantastic. And it is exactly why that is a game that should be played on hard difficulty. I should be very specific here, actually. Why you should play it on brutal difficulty, which is like hard to very hard difficulty, not Gravewalker, right? I can do Gravewalker difficulty, but it's a bit too much. It's not fun by that point. You're just trying to prove something to yourself there. It's a little bit masochistic, and I don't recommend it. But in Brutal, captains are smart, captains are more aggressive, a lot more. The full range of the Nemesis system is used, and lethality is up all round, which means everyone dies to fewer hits. Now, you're still just a man, and they're still Uruks, so they take more hits than you, generally. You will go down to 3 or 4 hits depending on what armor you're wearing and, where you are in the game against who specifically you're fighting. Some captains have the capability of dropping you in 2, maybe 1 hit. This means that when you play Shadow of War on brutal difficulty, you have to sit the fuck up and pay attention. We all have games where we kinda sit back and just relaxed and enjoy the experience, you just kind of do it, right? Like, I've got Warframe and Conan Exiles, because I can always go on an exterminate mission on Earth for level 2 to 4 enemies and just plow through them, or on Conan Exiles, I can just work on my settlement. Both those things, relatively enjoyable experiences that can be done with no risk, and you don't have to concentrate too hard. On Shadow of War, brutal difficulty, you have to pay attention. You have to be on it. Like, it's not insanely hard, right? Like, after a while, you kind of get into a groove of things, and as you unlock more abilities, you learn what's up, but the game tests you. You are required to make use of everything in your arsenal just to survive, let alone win. And the game, it's not even as if it's like, oh, well, I just need to be prepared for when I go after a captain, right? I only need to be focused when I go and attack a captain. They'll attack you. If you just hang around, they'll come after you. You've got to be prepared. You've got to be able to adapt to circumstances on the fly. You've got to make use of weaknesses and fears. You've got to make use of your surroundings. I believe that Shadow of War absolutely should be played on a harder difficulty to fully experience what that game is all about. And the narrative impact is significant, but we'll come to that later. Next, we're going to talk about the gameplay effects on Fallout 4. Playing on survival mode specifically. So Fallout 4, a lot of people's experience with that game, I'd say, would be just running and gunning, blasting your way through raiders, ghouls, and mutants alike, right? And it's fun. Like, you get loads of cool guns, and you experience the story. And to be fair, Fallout 4, if you wanted to play that on easy difficulty, I don't think that's a terrible idea, because you just kind of want to experience the world. There's so much story and interesting locations and characters and stuff to do that, you know, being stuck on a section, like, and just not being able to get somewhere could be frustrating, so I understand that. But playing it on survival, the fact that you can't just roam around and do whatever you want is kind of why I love it. To provide you with some context, on survival mode for Fallout 4, you cannot fast travel. You have to eat, sleep, drink, and treat yourself if you get ill, and you will get ill. Oh my god, you will get ill. You need to find antibiotics, or make antibiotics, to heal yourself of any illnesses. Lethality is up all around, much like in Shadow of War, which means most things will die a lot quicker, including yourself. I'd say a full clip from a fully automatic pipe rifle will put you down most of the time unless you're wearing good armor. And wearing good armor comes with its own risks, because your weight carrying capacity is severely lowered, and bullets weigh something now. So, like, a mini nuke weighs, like, I think 10 pounds or something ridiculous like that, so you can't just cart around a fat man. And this requires you to approach everything in Fallout 4 with more tact and planning. A lot of the time, especially early game, I would go around with a pistol, because, like, if I was scavenging for materials, for instance, I needed the extra space. I would only go back to base and grab my rifle if I was going down to Cortega to take on the raiders. And that's another thing. An entire building full of raiders is a problem. You can't just run in there. You will die. They will kill you. It's not a case of skill or accuracy or reflexes. The pure number of bullets flying at you. And if they hit you with a Molotov, you're done. And I'd say that's the case for most of the game on survival, actually. A Molotov will kill you, like, almost instantly. Most explosives will as well, which I think is actually a bit much. But the overall experience is amazing. It changes everything about how you approach Fallout 4. You build yourself up slowly. You sort out your network of settlements, not just because Preston wants you to, or because you feel like you should because it's a gameplay mechanic, but because those are your rest stops. Those are where you go to resupply and sleep and eat and drink. And also, I completely forgot to mention it when I was describing the differences between survival and normal. On survival, you can't manually save. You only save by sleeping. So those settlements are everything to you. They are your rest stops. They are your save points. They are everything. You keep ammo there. Like, I have multiple settlements in my game where it's like, I'll keep a bit of, you know, 44 ammo here just in case. Travel through, I'm running low on 44, I've got some here. You plan it out. You have to plan it out. You treat it like an actual wasteland survival simulation experience. Now, there are actual mods on, like, the PC version shit that turn it into a real survival simulation experience. Like, you know, they go all the way, and survival mode on Fallout 4 probably isn't much compared to those. But as it stands, I think it is the most engaging way to play Fallout 4, because you understand the threats, the pure constant danger that you are in being in the Commonwealth. We've talked about gameplay, now I want to talk about narrative, and this is just as, if not more important, than its effect on gameplay. Once again, let's go back to Shadow of War. In Middle-earth, orcs, Urlux, goblins, Nazgul, Sauron himself are the big threat to the Free Peoples. They are considered an apocalyptic threat capable of wiping out all free life within Middle-earth. Sometimes, when you play these games, it can be kind of hard to figure out why, because you cut down orcs in droves, even Uruks, even the Uruks of Isengard in full battle armor. You're cut down by the dozens, goblins even more so. The Nazgul usually end up being some kind of interesting boss fight. When you play Shadow of War on brutal difficulty and you see Talion, the Grave Walker, who might literally be one of the strongest men, specifically humans, who has ever lived, get taken down by 3 swings from a grunt, you get it. You start to understand. Uruks are powerful, they are big, they are strong, they are bred for war. Humans, no matter what magical powers they might have backing them, are still just human and will die. And you will die. Purely through having this harder gameplay, you come to realize why Sauron is such a threat to Middle-earth. Because there's a combination of 2 things. First of all, the fact that an Uruk can put you down very quickly, the strength of which they wield some of those weapons could kill a normal man in probably 1 hit. Second of all, there is swear to God, unlimited number of them. Like, literally, it never ends. It never fucking ends. If the slight spoilers here, but if the events of Shadow of War are to be believed, the Urks were fighting a war with themselves for decades before the events of Lord of the Rings came to pass, and Mordor still had an unbelievably large army, right? Combine that, the numbers, and the danger that these creatures pose, and the fact that humans take about 18 years to raise a fighter, 16 if you're, you know, a little less scrupulous, and 14 if you're really fucking desperate. I don't know how long it takes to make an Uruk. I don't think it takes that long. And they have a fully fledged fighter who can, let's see, if you had a raw Gondorian recruit versus a freshly made Uruk, I think the Uruk would win, frankly, and that's a problem. Your Gondorian soldiers not only need to become old enough to fight, they need time to get experience. But it's a problem, and that is why I loved playing on Brutal and how it had such a large impact on the narrative of Shadow of War, because you came to understand the threat, and you came to understand why taking those Uruks and bringing them over to our side is actually a fantastic idea. In fact, it might be the only idea. Because no one knew, I can't remember what the deal with the ring was, but destroying the ring wasn't really a thing yet. People didn't know that if a small hobbit threw the ring into Mount Doom, everything would be fine. They were still trying to fight Sauron conventionally, and this was literally the only way to do so was by taking his own soldiers and turning them against him. You come to understand it, and that's important. And now we move on to Fallout 4. So, the Commonwealth is beset by a lot of problems. Raiders, ghouls, super mutants, the Institute, depending on where you stand, the Brotherhood of Steel, monsters, lots of monsters, gunners, shit, there's shit everywhere. If it were left up to these people, the Commonwealth would just be a lawless shithole, kind of like it actually is when you show up. These enemies are dangerous, all of them are dangerous. Even raiders with fucking little pipe pistols are dangerous. And playing on survival and having these guys be dangerous has such an effect on how you understand the world of Fallout 4 and the people in it. When a settler is like, there's a gang of raiders who have been giving a shit, can you please go take care of them? When you're playing on the normal game, you're probably like, oh come on man, they're just a bunch of fucking raiders, who cares? Like, that's small time to me. But when you play on survival, you're like, yeah, fuck, a full gang. A full gang of armed men. They will kill you, you will die. You go after them by yourself. If you walk in through the front gate, firing off a revolver into the air, they will shoot you dead. You have to be smart about it. It's what also allows you to become something special. These people turn to you because 3 dirt poor settlers with pipe pistols can't take on a fucking platoon of gunners with laser rifles. It's not realistic. They know they can't, and when you play on survival, you understand why they can't, because for a long time, or perhaps even currently, you can't do that either. If you get ambushed by a platoon of gunners, there's a good chance you'll die, because they're just too strong. Most of the time, you need to set up the fight if you want to survive in survival. You need to fucking launch an ambush, you need to put down mines. I once had to break into the USAF satellite base, whatever the fuck that place is called, in the north, in between Sanctuary and Ten Pines Bluff. I didn't go in there guns blazing. I didn't even kill every raider there. I understood that all I needed to do to get that settlement over to my side was retrieve their necklace. So I got a switchblade, I snuck in there, I slit the throats I had to slit, got the necklace, and got the fuck out. Because trying to kill every raider in that place was unnecessary and very dangerous. Considering the fact that you have to sleep in order to save adds to the weight of your tactical decisions. Danger feels dangerous because you can lose a lot of progress if you die. It feeds into itself. I think Fallout 4 might actually be one of, specifically on its survival mode, might be one of the most well thought out and eloquent harder difficulty modes I've ever played, which is funny because Fallout 4 as a whole has problems, but its survival mode works out very well. I don't enjoy Fallout 4 because it's a Fallout game. I don't play it to play a Fallout game. I play it to play a Wasteland survival game. And as much as that may sound like I just said the same thing twice, those are actually very different experiences. Not to say that Fallout as a series isn't Wasteland survival, but there's a difference. Maybe that's a topic for another day. But my point is, survival mode allows you to understand why the people of the Commonwealth need help. Because what they're up against is ridiculous. The numbers alone are insane. Super mutants. Do you know how long it was before I could fight a super mutant effectively? A while. Because that thing was made physically man-made to be a soldier. It is the epitome of like physical I don't know what the term is. It is big, it is strong, it can shrug off bullets. Yeah, it's dumb as a fucking brick, and I had to use that to my advantage. I couldn't take it on head on, although there was the time I fought Fist with a sledgehammer and actually won. That was a good feeling, because I earned it, because it was hard. That's my point. That goes back to gameplay, to be fair, but even from a narrative perspective, that makes my character extremely impressive. That he had a desperate scrap with a super mutant in physical combat and won. To be fair, those are only 2 games I'm talking about. 2 games where playing on a harder difficulty properly made the experience for me. There are so many more that I could talk about, but we would be sat here forever, and if you've even been watching this long, and if you have, you're a very patient human being and very attentive, and I appreciate it. It would be way too long. There are too many games. I couldn't do it. However, to appease people who perhaps don't, like to torture themselves when playing games, I'm going to offer up something on the other end of the spectrum. For instance, if any of you have heard of a game called Battle Brothers, which is a mercenary sort of management game. It's kind of strange, but very, very good. I really like Battle Brothers. Play that on the easiest difficulty. Don't try and play it on hard, because it's just a series of failure. You just fail. You just die if you try and play that game on hard. I've tried playing on hard, I have, and I get nowhere. And I get nowhere slowly as well. And it's frustrating to have something that is a long time investment to then suffer a proper game over. Now, I'm not saying that harder difficulties on that game are bad, they're not. I think it's very well made, I think it's very well designed. It was just too much for me. I'm willing to admit that that was too much for me. I play that game on easy, and even then I struggle, because that game is fucking hard. Honorable mention, Civ can be a lot of fun to play on easy, because sometimes you just want to build a civilization. You don't want to have to be like, oh fuck, is so-and-so, like, about to get a science victory, I need to change everything around to make sure either I get the science victory or stop them. Sometimes you just want to build a civilization. Sometimes you want to build Big Ben in Rome. Sometimes you want the Mausoleum of Halicarnassus in Germany. You just want to play the video game. And I get that. Playing Civ on lower difficulties can be a ton of fun, although playing Civ on harder difficulties is also an engaging experience. But I could go on about this forever, and I'm not gonna. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think? Do you think that playing games on a harder difficulty is a better way to play? Do you prefer to play on easier difficulties? Is there a game that you play that benefits from being at a harder difficulty? Let me know. If you disagree with anything I've said, also let me know, because, discussion. This video has been a mess, but regardless, thank you so much for watching. And whatever I talk about next time, and I've got a couple ideas, but I'm trying to vary things up a little bit. I hope to see you there. Toodles. Goodbye.